So without further delay, let me turn it over to Rahul, Senior Product Manager with Amazon Web Services. Take it away.
Thank you, Maya, and thank you everybody for joining us. And I lead product management for Amazon Redshift, and that is our data warehousing service in the cloud that's petabyte scale, that's a byte per year. And what I'm going to do today is give you an overview of Amazon Redshift, what we set out to achieve, some of the details around its architecture, and then I'll turn it over to Lee. So with Redshift, really our goals were to design a data warehousing system that was 10 times faster than traditional row-based stores for analytic queries, that was a tenth the cost of traditional data warehousing systems, and that was easy to use. And so those are big ideas, and we were really driven to try and develop this by our customers. Our customers were asking us for data warehousing done the AWS way, and this means a system that's easy to provision. You can spin up clusters in minutes. It's one that you can pay by the hour and didn't have to spend hundreds of thousands or millions up front in prepayments. And we wanted something that was fast, cheap, easy to use. And then finally, we wanted something that was compatible with the tool sets that customers were using today, and that means SQL. And one of the things that we've seen with Amazon Redshift as we've had some time in market is that we've been able to expand beyond traditional enterprise data warehousing, and that's really a function of Redshift's ease of use, performance, and provisioning flexibility. So within the enterprise segment, we've definitely seen customers interested in scaling their data warehousing capacity into the cloud, potentially migrating from existing systems. But fundamentally, the value has really come around. And I've been in customer conversations where we've talked about being able to spin up hundreds of terabytes of data warehouse cluster in 15 minutes and gotten some incredulous responses as they were used in multi-month procurement cycles prior to that. We've also seen a lot of big data use cases emerging, and these are companies that are able to improve the performance relative to their existing solutions by an order of magnitude and sometimes more. And this is companies like Pinterest and Adobe, and they've talked about the ability to really analyze more of their data, and secondly, to be able to analyze that data using standard tools and SQL, and as you'll see today, Infor.BI. And then on the SaaS side, these are companies who are delivering software as a service. For example, think of an email marketing platform that might have analytics embedded within it that they provide to their customers. And for them, they're able to scale as their needs grow and reduce their costs really by an order of magnitude by having Redshift power their analytics behind the scenes. And an example of some of the customers that have been using Redshift, you can see a lot of variety in terms of industries, folks like NASDAQ in financial services, Nokia looking at analytics around smartphone usage, Outlook in fashion and flash sales, and companies like Pinterest doing large-scale web analytics, all really using Redshift and the power of the system to query large amounts of data with high performance. Another part of our philosophy at Amazon around product development is that we like to launch services and then work closely with our customers and iterate and improve upon them quickly. And this chart just shows you some of the features that we've been releasing since we launched Redshift in February of this year. We've added over 40 new items of functionality, all really driven by input from our customers. And this has included rolling Redshift out to global regions, adding more security capabilities, adding more big data functionality. We're always interested in hearing from customers about how we can make our products better to help them meet more of their use cases. To talk a little bit about Redshift architecture, so Redshift is designed to run in a clustered model. It's a massively parallel processing system, an MPP system. And really, the architecture consists of a leader node, which is your SQL endpoint that coordinates your query execution. And so you would connect your SQL tools or your BI platform to this using JDBC and ODBC and Postgres drivers. When you issue queries, the leader node actually generates and compiles C++ and then executes them on the compute nodes, which is where your data is stored. Everything is interconnected in our high-performance computing environment. That's a 10 gigabit Ethernet bidirectional connection between nodes. And the compute nodes are where processing and data storage takes place. And those compute nodes can be loaded and backed up in parallel from Amazon S3 or from DynamoDB, which is our NoSQL database for low latency capturing of events and general database workloads. And also we've recently added the ability to copy data into Redshift in parallel from anything that can accept an SSH connection. So a lot of capability there in terms of getting your data in and being able to take advantage of the system. The nodes themselves are hardware that's optimized for high-performance data processing in the large size, which we call the 8 extra large. These nodes have 16 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of RAM, 24 spindles, and 16 terabytes of storage. And there is a small size, which is the extra large, and that can be run as a single node with 2 terabytes of storage. And so we allow you to scale easily from 2T all the way up to well over a petabyte. And with Redshift built-in compression, you could see anywhere from 4 to 8x gains. And so at the top end of that, you can get 5 to 6 petabytes of data into a Redshift cluster of 100 8 extra large nodes. Another element of Redshift that's unique is really its pricing. And so we've tried to keep its pricing as simple and transparent as possible. And we really offer 3 pricing models. And so what you're looking at here is the price for a single 2 terabyte node, which is the extra large. Our pricing is linear, so the 8 extra large costs 8 times as much, but the storage cost per terabyte is the same because it has 8 times as much space on it. And so if you're running the 2 terabyte node per hour, you pay less than $1. It's 85 cents an hour, and that works out to an annual cost of just over $3,700 per terabyte. We also offer reserved pricing models where you commit to a 1-year or 3-year term in return for substantial discounts. And so the 1-year term commitment gets you a 40% discount, bringing your cost per terabyte to just over $2,100 per year. And the 3-year commitment brings your cost per terabyte to under $1,000 per terabyte per year, and that's all in. That covers hardware, use of the software, free backups up to the amount of storage that you have provisioned. And so really our goal with this was to make Redshift cheap enough that customers no longer had to worry about whether or not data was worth analyzing. They just had to decide whether they wanted to analyze it or not. And the pricing is very simple. We don't charge you for the leader node. It's just the size and the number of nodes in your cluster and the amount of time that you're running them. And you're welcome to pay as you go or commit for those discounts. Another area at Redshift that we spent a lot of time investing in is really ensuring that we can deliver a secure system for our customers. And so Redshift really allows you to run encrypted end-to-end. So you can load encrypted data onto S3. You can then ensure that any connections to your cluster require SSL so you can secure data as it's in transit when you're running queries. We have encryption of data at rest that you can enable with push of a button in the console, and that's AES 256 hardware accelerated. Every block on disk, whether it's data stored or query spillover or backups, are encrypted. And you have a choice of service-managed keys, where we manage encryption keys, or you can use a hardware security module that lives either on-premise or using the Amazon Cloud Hardware Security Module service, which gives you full control over your cluster encryption keys. And then everything can be run inside Amazon's virtual private cloud. And this is a logically isolated section of the cloud where you control all of the networking, routing, and access, and you can connect it to your on-premise data centers using VPN, and so completely lock down access to the cluster. And then within the cluster itself, when you provision a cluster, it's dedicated to you, and the compute nodes in that cluster are completely walled off from the outside world. And so you would interact with the leader node through your JDBC and ODBC connection and your BI platform, and then issue SQL from there, and Redshift takes care of locking down the rest of the system. Our goal with Redshift really was to design a data warehousing system which was supposed to be the central repository of all of your data. And you can start with 2T, scale all the way up to over a petabyte. And really what we've seen with customers is that they'll be generating data at multiple different points in their organization. It could be on desktop machines, mobile devices. It might be internal customers as well as external customers. And that data could be going into transactional OLTP relational databases or NoSQL databases if they're perhaps capturing events on a website. And data could be stored on S3 in the form of log files. And then we find that customers will either load that data directly into Redshift using an ETL tool of their choice, or in some cases they'll process that data using something like Amazon Elastic MapReduce or Hadoop in order to be able to take unstructured data, turn it into structured data, and then load it into Redshift where you can then analyze it. And that's really why we're excited about our relationship with Infor, because it gives you a great BI platform from which to make sense of all of this data. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lee. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rahul, and welcome and hello, everybody. My name is Lee Kilmer from Infor, and as Maya had mentioned, I am Vice President of Development for the Infor Business Intelligence, Analytics, and Enterprise Performance Management offerings. And what I want to take you through today is to follow on with what Rahul was saying and show you and talk about how you can leverage Infor BI and leverage data that you might have in Redshift with the Infor Business Intelligence technology platform. So what we'll talk about today is, essentially turning information, data into information, and powering what we call a holistic view of performance management. So, leveraging information not only for business analytics, trend analysis, historical analytics, but also how you can leverage that information for budgeting and planning kinds of purposes, and even for forecasting and prediction kinds of capabilities. We'll talk about what that means in the context of Redshift, and how we can harvest data from Amazon Redshift and load it in or access it through the Infor BI technology stack. And then I understand that some of you may be with Infor or have Infor applications, but others may not know necessarily who Infor is. So we'll talk a little bit about that and leave some time at the end for questions and answers as well. So when we go out from an Infor perspective and talk with various customers about their challenges related to leveraging business intelligence within their organizations today, there are some common themes that tend to rise to the surface. So for instance, BI systems today tend to be designed around known questions, right? Pre-designing the questions, pre-thinking of what people might want to ask, and based on a small number of attributes. And often those things are designed in a somewhat rigid way. So things like data warehouses, things like pre-built data marts, may not be agile enough. You may have challenges if you have additional questions that need to be asked and the data is not existing in the data warehouse or the data mart. As Rahul had pointed out, there's also an increasing amount of information that's being available or becoming available for people to leverage and glean insight from in terms of driving performance management and driving analytics within their organizations. So, now we see information arriving at a much faster pace, a lot larger data sets, a lot more granularity in the information, and even information coming from multiple different sources, the idea of structured and semi-structured data, and being something that people want to use for business insight and connect that to their business data to provide better insight and more precise information around making the right decisions. And then lastly, we often see still a high cost of entry in terms of deploying business intelligence. It takes a while to get servers up and running and get data marts and data warehouses deployed. That results in a long time to value, maybe a low ROI, and even poor adoption by the end user community if they don't really grab onto the system, really understand the data, and how to use the system to gain valuable insight. So as we look at how Infor is leveraging Redshift and specifically Infor BI, those of you who understand and know about the Infor solution, Infor provides a number of different ERP applications to solve various business problems, things like financials, things like supply chain management, things like human capital management, and so forth. And all that information and all those applications are connected through a middleware technology platform that we call Infor Ion. Those applications provide information to Ion in a standardized format so that one application publishing certain business information looks exactly the same as that same information published from another application. For example, vendor information, purchase order information, vendor invoice information, and so forth. And Ion serves the purpose of processing and delivering that information across various Infor applications and can also be used as a way of feeding information to data stores such as the Infor Ion Business Vault or Amazon Redshift for the purposes of analytics and reporting. So what happens here is an application, let's say it's that Infor application on the lower end of this diagram on the left-hand side, is processing and publishing information such as sales orders, purchase orders, master data, and so forth onto the Ion technology platform. And that information is being fed into a business vault that's running on Amazon and leveraging and integrating with Amazon Redshift. Infor BI then sits on top of that Redshift data or those Redshift databases and serves as the front-end dashboarding, analytics, and interactive reporting capability that can pull information out of Redshift and present it to end users. Infor BI also works with any other data that you might have residing in Redshift as well, so it doesn't have to just come from Infor applications. It doesn't have to just be delivered through Infor Ion. So if you happen to have other Redshift databases that maybe are being fed through data sources or connections to other information within your organization, we can certainly bring that data together as well through Infor BI. So we can use Infor BI to put that data together, bring it together into one common data source. It provides an agile and durable architecture, so as applications are publishing data and the applications are changing, the BI and the reporting front ends don't have to change. And we can provide a very compelling user experience to end users so that they can get more information from the data and hopefully help make better sense for themselves as well. We also provide this concept of end-to-end enterprise performance management. So taking information and not only doing things like dashboards and analytics, but also leveraging that same information to drive planning processes or drive forecasting processes so that it's leveraging one tool set, one copy of the data, one security model, and addressing all those various needs within the organization. So what I'd like to do next is just show you a little bit about Infor Business Intelligence, talk you through and walk you through the dashboarding tooling that we have around Infor BI, show you how information from Redshift can be accessed as well, and then we'll come back and talk in a little bit more detail about the Infor BI solution. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, so bear with me for one moment, please, while I do that. Okay, so hopefully you are seeing my screen share now. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the Infor Ion dashboards, which is a module and part of the Infor Business Intelligence platform. So I'll go ahead and give it my user ID and password here. And I'll log into a particular demo system that I have. Go ahead and accept that. And as I'm logging in here, this is an example of showing how Infor BI dashboards can be leveraged and used in a web browser environment. We also have a very nice mobile application that we call Mobile Motion Dashboards, which provides a lot of the same capabilities from your iPad, and we'll have Android for that coming soon. So these capabilities that I'll show you here, again being done through a browser-based interface, can also be done just using various gestures and things like that on an iPad device as well. So I'm going to go up to my menu here, and I'll just go ahead and click on an example dashboard that's been pre-built within this demo system called the World Sales Dashboard. What that'll do is go out and access Infor BI analytics cubes and also can access relational data or Redshift data as well and pull that information into my dashboard. This particular dashboard will show some information about products, about trends, and allow me to interact with that information and do some additional slicing and dicing. So hopefully what you're seeing is that we have a dashboard here that allows me to do things like select different regions. I can look at product trend information. I can look at actual versus budget trending information. I can see my top 10 products and so forth. And I'm looking at basically revenue, actual versus budget, product trends for various products, the top 10 products for revenue, and various channels.
Hi,
Yes.
Lee. This is Maya. Actually,
Yep.
we are having a technical difficulty with screen sharing. Would you mind using your backup slides? The quality will not be as stellar, but I think it will be better than this.
Okay.
So just use the slides that display the screenshot. Thank you.
Okay. Let me know if you're seeing that, Maya.
Actually, now we do see your screen share. It was delayed, but we do see it.
Okay. If I go back to the screen share, is it okay? Or should I go to the slide screen
It's fine. Share? It's good.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. So again, this is a very simple sales dashboard showing, again, product trend information, actual versus budget trend, top 10 products, and so forth. If I'm interested, for example, in not revenue, gross revenue, but instead net revenue, I can simply click on the net revenue bar over here on the right. That'll update all the other widgets on this dashboard and show me product trends, actual versus budget, top 10 products, and so forth for net revenue. If I was interested, instead of the current year, if I wanted to look at last year, 2012, I could click that one and bring up 2012. So you kind of get the idea around navigating through a dashboard. Everything is associative, everything is interactive, and as an executive or a decision maker, I can use dashboards like this to help me gain insight and see a lot of information in a short space and hopefully make a good decision. So how do we create these dashboards? And to do that, and do that example, I'll go up to my little demo pull-down menu here, and I'm going to click on Sales KPIs. And Infor.BI provides the ability to pre-create small reports that we call widgets that can be created by somebody who is skilled at reporting or reporting tools using the Infor.BI reporting tools, and can be published to the Infor.BI dashboard server for end users to consume. So this is a way of making it easier for people who might not really be experts in creating reports, but to still create some of their own mashups and still create their own dashboards based on information that they're interested in. So I'll just create a very simple one. I'm going to click on top 10 customers here, and I'll pull that one in, and you'll see that I get a nice little bar chart here that shows me my top 10 customers across my organization. I'm going to go ahead and click on products and actually drag that one and drop it over here on the right-hand side. And you'll notice as I do that the environment is very magnetic, so it provides me with hints about where to drop these widgets so that I can place them and align them in a proper way. I may also be interested in additional details around product distribution, so I'll click that one and drag that one down and drop it on the bottom here, showing additional information. So I've got top 10 customers, products, and product distribution. So it's very easy for the end user to go out and create these kinds of mashups, these kinds of dashboards, leveraging these pre-built widgets. But what if there's information that I want to do analysis on that maybe there's not a pre-built widget for? And we have that capability as well through a feature within Infor.BI that we call self-service. So I'll go ahead and click on self-service, and I've got a number of different things and widgets that I can bring to my dashboard that I can configure myself. So I'll go ahead and open that folder for self-service, and I'll click on this pie chart, and I'll drag that one down. You see it again, it prompts me for where to place it. This particular self-service widget will walk me through a query wizard that allows me to design and point at essentially the data that I'm interested in. So you can see that in this case I'm pointing to a particular Infor.BI OLAP cube. It's a model called analysis. There's a particular category that will be the rows called region, and then I'm actually looking at gross margin. If I click on next, it gives me a little pivot table that allows me to further refine my query down to the things that I'm really, really interested in looking at. So So for example, I could change my time dimension here. I might look at product information, channel information. I'm going to keep it very simple, and I'm just going to drill down on region. So I'll zoom into that, and that'll show me all of the information below the region hierarchy. I'll go ahead and click on Next. If I wanted to give this a title, I could do that. I could type here, Regional Sales, and then I'll go ahead and just click on Finish. So here's my basic dashboard showing me top 10 customers, products, product distribution, and regional sales. And I'm able to place and configure these pre-designed widgets, or I can also use self-service widgets to design my own queries and place those on the dashboard as well. So moving beyond analytics and dashboards and talking a bit about performance management, and particularly budgeting and planning, also within this environment, because the Infor BI technology is a read and write kind of technology stack, it also allows for things like planning and simulation kinds of scenarios. And so right from within the same dashboard, if I happen to be somebody who now can do budgeting and planning, let's say I'm a manager or I'm responsible for a particular line of business, I can launch a planning and budgeting application that allows me to go in and do departmental expense budgeting, revenue planning, and other kinds of forecasting and so forth. So this particular example shows sales planning. Some of the same products that we saw in the previous demonstration over here on the left-hand side. We actually see the 2012 actuals here and a 2013 budget. We can see our budget variance, and then you'll see information spread throughout the various months of the year, and then also the spreading algorithm at the top here showing how information is distributed. And so just keeping it simple, if I decide, well, for all-season tires, we can do better than 150,000, maybe we can do 185,000. I can enter that data into the system, and it will dynamically store that information back in the Infor BI analytics server, which is an in-memory analytics database. And it will also automatically, in real time, recalculate all of my roll-ups, all of my aggregations, all of my calculations, so that I instantly see the impact of that change in the budget at the top level, spread out and splashed out through all the details. And I can also enter notes as well. So if I want to enter a note like this will be a good year, and I can save that, those notes that I can enter in that manner will also follow the data. So I can see that information whether I pull this dashboard up in a web browser, if I pull it up on a mobile device, even if I access the same information through Excel, through the Infor BI Excel add-in, I'll see that same note. And we can also take planning and budgeting one step further and allow people to leverage forecasting and prediction as well. So if I wanted to look at more of a statistical forecast, I could place that onto my dashboard. And this particular forecast will show sales volume forecasted over the last 36 months. In the blue line is the actuals, the gray line is the target, and the seasonal forecast is something that's calculated. Infor BI actually has an integration with R, which many of you might be familiar with, which is a popular statistical forecasting and open source solution, where we will essentially send information to R and bring information back from R. So essentially using it as a calculation engine to do things like forecasting based on historical trends. I can also enter information into this environment as well if I wanted to do additional planning scenarios. So I will take this forecast planning and drag and drop that over here on the right-hand side. And you'll see then a data capture template that allows me to enter target data for 2014. And you'll notice here that in period 11, is showing 23,000. So there's a huge variance between the target and the forecast. And you can also see that over here on the chart as well. The gray line is much lower than what the forecast computed. So if I wanted to correct that problem, I could simply enter, maybe I want to enter 20,000. We can do better than the 10,000 we had before. Click Enter. And you'll see that dynamically updates the analytical model and also dynamically updates all the widgets that are appearing on the dashboard. In addition to that, and one last example, we can not only access multi-dimensional models that are running within Infor BI, but of course we can populate those models from Redshift databases, and we can also access Redshift data directly through this environment. So I have one simple example here of bringing in information from Redshift. This is actually would be a Redshift query now, a relational query accessing the Redshift database, and allows me to mash that data up in conjunction with my other multidimensional data or my other planning information, budgeting and planning information, or even my seasonal forecast information to get more of a holistic view of my performance regardless of where that data is sitting. So that's the example of using Infor BI dashboards and the Infor BI platform, showing how you can do historical analytics, how you can do departmental expense budgeting, how you can bring in forecasting and do additional targeting, and bring in relational kinds of data, Redshift data in this case, to help augment the overall analysis and augment your dashboards, providing more information to the user to make a better decision. So with that, I will turn back to the PowerPoint here. So I'll stop sharing and go back to the slide that I was on. Right here, and you should see the demo slide appearing again to the audience. So looking at some very different types of use cases that we see people interested in using or deploying with Infor BI. So, one of the most common things that we see people doing with Infor BI is just simply looking at, taking a look at current solutions that they may have built using Excel. Everybody has that situation where they have Excel spread marts is kind of often used as the term, or lots of information in Excel spreadsheets that are spread out throughout the organization. And so we often see people using Infor BI to really take that to the next level, operationalize that more, get that data stored in a single data store, still using Excel as a front end if they'd like to do that, but also providing the ability to push those kinds of applications or information out to a web browser, out to a mobile device as well. We also see people implementing pure kind of analytics solutions, so drilling down, slicing and dicing, doing dashboards, key performance indicators, trending, time series analysis, and those kinds of things. We see people doing things like standard reporting. So think of the daily, weekly, monthly kinds of reporting that you might do, typically leveraging more transactional data, typically leveraging more granular data, more listing-oriented, multi-page kinds of reporting that helps you really run the business and understand what's happening within the application. We also see customers who build their own kinds of performance management solutions with the Infor BI technology. So they may have certain kinds of planning scenarios, certain kinds of forecasting scenarios that they want to implement, and they use the tool set to do that. And then lastly, we might see customers leveraging some of the out-of-the-box capabilities that we have around Infor BI. So things like pre-built budgeting and planning solutions, financial consolidation solutions, strategy management capabilities, analytics for your industry, for your particular line of business, and so forth. And so these are things that are used by companies of all different sizes, and also can be the type of thing that is deployed either on a departmental basis. So often customers might start with more of a departmental deployment, or on an enterprise-wide scale as well, depending on what your needs are. So scaling up to large enterprise-wide deployments, scaling down to more departmental deployments. It also provides for solutions that can be very independent of the industry. So crossing the lines between financial and operational kinds of information, doing things like financial budgeting, financial forecasting, financial consolidations, doing things like operational budgeting, sales and operations planning, product costing or project costing, and those kinds of things, all leveraging one common tool set. And then lastly, typically solutions that are developed using or leveraged using Infor BI are often created and maintained by more of the business user community. So people who really understand how the business is functioning, what the common key performance indicators are, how that information should be represented to senior management and so forth, versus requiring deep IT technical expertise and people that really need to go in at a very low level and build solutions and dashboards and things like those that I showed. From an architectural perspective, if we kind of look at the different layers of the Infor business intelligence stack, and if you focus first on the bottom band down there, a number of different data sources. So Infor BI can get information for all the functions that I mentioned, for analytics, for planning, budgeting, and so forth, from a number of different data sources. So first of all, we do support the Infor Ion technology platform and the module within that which is really our operational data store called the Business Vault. We also support Amazon Redshift as well as a data source, and again, being able to pull information from Redshift for analytics, for budgeting, planning, financial consolidations to serve as the foundation for that, but also accessing that Redshift data directly without having to preload it into the Infor BI environment. It also supports the ability to access data that's sitting just simply in standard relational databases through ODBC, through JDBC. You can also pull in textual information if you'd like to, and there are cases where users may just need to key in data. You might not have a good data source that contains that information. There might be certain statistical information or unit information or other kinds of things like that you just simply want to key into the system so that people can use that as part of their analysis. In the center of that then is our in-memory multidimensional data store, again supporting analytics, planning, and forecasting. We also support other kinds of analytical data stores, including Redshift, as I mentioned, but also Microsoft Analysis Services or SAP Business Warehouse. And then from a front-end perspective, in terms of user access to information, we provide web browser-based access running on all the popular browsers, Chrome, Safari, IE, and Firefox. We also have a mobile dashboard capability that today runs on an iPad and will eventually become available as well for Android. There's also an Excel add-in as well. So if you have people who are really accustomed to leveraging Excel as their user experience for slicing and dicing data or even doing planning, that Excel add-in can also be used as a front end for all these different data sources that I mentioned. And we've gotten some really good feedback from the industry around the value really of the Infor Business Intelligence platform. And this particular study, which is done by Howard Dresner and Associates, called The Wisdom of Crowds, done in 2013. The first time that Infor participated in the Wisdom of Crowds, we came out on top in terms of our overall ranking among Titan vendors within this particular survey. So it is a survey of Infor customers, Infor BI customers that is, who are currently using the system, and they respond with their comments and their scores essentially on how well they like Infor BI from a value perspective, from a product perspective, from a support perspective, and so forth. And so we're very happy and excited about this, and it shows some great proven value for Infor BI in the marketplace. So if we switch over for a little bit and talk just a bit about who is Infor, for those of you who may not be that familiar with Infor. So Infor is the third largest enterprise software company, ERP company, and we provide solutions such as financial management, such as manufacturing kinds of solutions. We have human capital management and so forth. And we're the third largest ERP globally in the marketplace. We have around 70,000 customers globally across all the major regions and countries within across the world, and we actually focus on 12 major industries. So we go to market by industry, by vertical, and really tailor our solutions to address specific needs in those vertical industries. And we even take it down a level from major industry into micro vertical industries as well. So recognizing that, for example, if you're in the food and beverage industry, but you're a brewer brewing beer, let's say, you have different requirements than maybe a baker who is selling baked goods. So even though both of those kinds of organizations could be classified as food and beverage, at the micro vertical level, their requirements are different. And Infor as a company and as a strategy is focused on addressing those requirements at that micro vertical level. And if we just look at a bit on who some of Infor's customers are, going to market by different vertical industries, we have customers in the aerospace and defense industry, we have automotive suppliers, we have industrial distributors. Infor has about 50% of the market share in healthcare hospitals and organizations of a certain size run Infor financials and also our procurement solutions, for example. We have 90% of the Las Vegas Strip from a hospitality perspective, so organizations that are providing, that are hotels, resorts and casinos and things of that nature. A lot of different state and local governments, governments like state of Michigan, state of Arizona, and so you kind of get the idea. And the solutions are tailored and designed for those different vertical industries. And Infor BI, along with Redshift, would work across and is available across all those different industries. So lastly here, before we wrap up and start taking some questions, as you think about Infor BI and how we leverage Amazon Redshift, we're leveraging Redshift as a data warehouse in the cloud, leveraging all the value and capabilities that Rahul had talked about to help dramatically lower the cost of entry and speed time to value. So the nice thing about a cloud deployment is it's there. The provisioning of that is very, very fast, as opposed to trying to provision and build an infrastructure like that on-premise if you were to try to build that within your own IT organization. So you can get up and running very, very quickly, and as Rahul had shared, the cost of entry is very, very low for some really, really powerful capabilities. We're also focusing on empowering business users and trying to reduce that dependency on specialized skills. So, giving the users a safe environment with secure information and secure data and clever tools that allows them to go out and slice and dice and build dashboards on their own without requiring a heavy IT involvement. And also because of the power of Redshift really and its ability to be massively scalable and take in and ingest really data from all different kinds of data sources, it helps our customers really kind of take on that challenge of bringing massive amounts of data into the system and very, very granular amounts of data into the system. To leverage that for analytics, but also help use that to feed things like financial planning, operations planning, sales forecasting, and those kinds of applications, and really drive business improvement all from one platform.